Gavich here.
Guzekowski here.
Seifert here.
Chandler here.
Approval of minutes way back on January 8th. It seems like a long time ago. If everybody would please take a look if there's any corrections, omissions, questions. And when you're ready, motion.
Seifert moves to approve the minutes of January 8th, 2019.
Chandler seconds.
Roll call.
Hannah, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Pillow, aye.
Lorik, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Item number 4 is significant common council actions. Carrie.
Common Council approved the following at their January 15th meeting: an ordinance for a conditional use permit for automobile and truck engine and body repair, outdoor storage of vehicles, and outdoor display of vehicles for sale, and semi-truck trailer parking on the property at 9840 South 27th Street. An ordinance to approve a rezone of the property at 135 West Forest Hill Avenue from B3 Office and Professional Business to M1 Manufacturing. An ordinance creating section 17.0333 sub A12 of the municipal code to allow restaurants without a drive-through facility as a permitted use in the OO mixed-use office overlay district, and a resolution approving a final subdivision plat for Eastbrook Preserve Phase 1. At their February 5th meeting, council approved an ordinance approving a conditional use permit for a freight yard, freight terminal, transshipment depot, and outdoor storage of vehicles and equipment on the property at 7221 South 10th Street, and approved amendments to the existing plan unit development to allow additional exterior building materials and signs for the target building on the property located at 8989 South Howell Avenue. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. New business. Item 5A is a plan review, site, landscape, and related plans for an expansion of parking at 7221 South 10th Street. Carrie?
The proposal is for an expansion of the existing parking area. This had a conditional use permit for a freight yard, freight terminal, transshipment depot, and outdoor storage of vehicles and equipment approved by the council on February 5th. On your screen is the proposed expansion of the parking lot, including some of the landscaping. It's primarily going to be on the south for truck and trailer parking. An additional 25 employee stalls will be on the west and south sides of the building behind the existing fence, and all required setbacks appear to be met in the plan. New landscape elements include trees to replace the existing dead ash trees, which will be removed. There will be new vegetation around the relocated stormwater pond, which you can see is now along 10th Street. And there will be additional landscaping around the east and west portions of the expanded truck and trailer parking area. As a reminder, no trees are allowed within utility easements, and comments from the city forester on the proposed landscaping plans have been provided. There will be a new chain link metal fence proposed around the expanded parking area, and per code, Plan Commission has the authority to determine the required opacity of the fencing. There's one error and omission from the landscape plan as proposed, and that's the height of the plants at maturity. That's included in the conditions of approval for Plan Commission consideration. If the Plan Commission is satisfied with the proposal, there is a suggested motion that the Plan Commission approves the site and landscaping plans submitted by Sam Dickman Jr. of Murphy Real Estate LLC for the property at 7221 South 10th Street, subject to conditions 1 through 3. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. I think we've all kind of seen this one before. I will go straight to the commission for questions, concerns,
No questions.
nothing. Brian? Dawn? Greg? What you? Fred?
I've got a question for Brian.
Sure, go ahead.
Existing, storm sewer. It's underneath the building. If you look on one of those, it shows a dotted line of existing storm sewer goes right in the middle of the building.
That is what's shown on the plans. It's a private line that's on there, so it's not public.
Nothing to do with the public.
No,
Okay.
and it's been there for years. So that's part of
Okay.
the recent expansion or 1998 expansion.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Anything else, Chauncey?
Yes, I have a question for the applicant.
Mr. Dickman?
Before we proceed,
sorry.
we're having an issue with the microphone, so if everybody could please be pretty loud whenever you speak into them. We have an issue where the amplification isn't working properly. So speak directly into the mic and as loud as you possibly can. Thank you.
I do have a question for the applicant.
Name and address, please.
Sam Dickman, 2224 East Kensington Boulevard in Shorewood.
Can you provide a little information about the opacity for the fence that's going around the property?
We're proposing to just provide a regular chain link fence. Oh, name and address is Dominic Ferrante, 3425 South Russell Road, New Berlin, Wisconsin.
So just a regular chain link?
We've provided a
Okay.
good amount of landscape, and that's basically the handling that function.
Okay. And I have a question for Carrie. So is there a recommendation for the opacity? Or that's just something we have to decide?
There's no recommendation because the existing chain link fence is not screened. So it's up to the Plan Commission whether you want to include additional opacity requirements or if you're fine with it as proposed.
Thank you.
Just a little information. I'm a little bit familiar with the property, and currently, as it sits, there's really just a south and a north parking lot. In the back was always just storage for the existing business that was there. It was always just a chain link fence, and there's nothing to the back. It's actually kind of an open spot, and then it opens up to probably like the flag store, things like that. So it's never had anything. There's really nothing back there. I think the enhancements to the landscape should do.
Thank you.
Brian?
Just a thought, if the fence is an issue, if it would make sense if that fence was pushed back behind the landscaping instead of out towards the road and brought around. If it's not an issue, it doesn't matter.
And what difference would it make? What would be the difference for, you're talking for screenage?
Screening, yes.
I just look at it as not in public view, so which side of the fence it sits on, I guess. I don't have a preference one way or the other. No further discussion? Motion, please.
Seifert moves that the Planning Commission approves the site and landscaping plan submitted by Sam Dickman Jr., Murphy Real Estate LLC for the property at 7721 South 10th Street with the following conditions. 1, that all relevant codes requirements remain in effect. 2, that the landscaping plan is revised to include the heights of the plants at maturity. 3, that all revised plans, site building, landscaping, east elevation, and so forth are submitted in digital format for review and approval by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of building permit applications.
Guzekowski.
Chandler's-
Go ahead, Chandler.
Chandler, second.
Roll call.
Hannah, aye.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, aye.
Lorick, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Okay. Good luck, gentlemen. Item 5B is a rezone for the property at 3961 East Oakwood from RS2, single family, to RS3, single family. Carrie? Oh, Pete?
Oh, I'll take that one. As the mayor stated, the applicant is requesting the property located at 3961 East Oakwood Road be rezoned from RS2 Single Family to RS3 Single Family Residential. The reason for the request is the applicant would like to subdivide the corner. On the screen is the highlighted area in question, but the applicant also owns the property to the east. And so they are zoned two separate zoning districts. One is RS3, one is RS2. The difference between the two zoning districts, RS2 requires larger lots, square footage wise, 17,000 square feet compared to 12,000 square feet in area. And the frontage for RS2 is 100 feet minimum, where RS3 is 80. And so, working with the applicant could subdivide the property, but may result in some lots being much skinnier and some being wider because of the two zoning districts. So the applicant is requesting the zoning change so it's all the same, and so then they could provide lots that are about a half acre, which is larger than typically for the RS3, but have that 80-foot wide minimum requirement. And that is why he's requesting this change. Included in your report is a proposed certified survey map that shows what could ultimately happen if the rezoning request is granted. With that said, staff has looked at the comprehensive plan. The land use for that area is single-family residential. They're not changing that use. It's all the same. It does provide the applicant a better use of the lots that they do have to make additional single-family housing lots in the city. With that said, staff suggests the motion that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the property at 3961 East Oakwood Road be rezoned from RS2 single-family residential to RS3 single-family residential after a public hearing.
Thank you, Pete. Questions from the commission? Chauncey? Fred?
Clean.
Okay.
Makes
Chris?
sense. No, makes sense.
Greg? Christina's okay? Brian?
Yeah, good.
Dawn? Okay. I have nothing on it either, so that one's quick and clean. Motion, please.
Seifert moves that the planning commission recommends to the common council that the property at 3961 East Oakwood Road be rezoned from RS2 single-family residential to RS3 single-family residential after a public hearing.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Hannah, I.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, I.
Lorick, aye. Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
I'd like to know if the applicant for item E is in the house. Room? Oh, you are here. Okay. I'd like to take a courtesy here and take item E and F out of order and save D for last. I think it'll be our biggest one. Save it for last. So let's move to item E, if everybody would please indulge me here. And this is a request submitted. Yep,
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I think that we have a little bit of confusion here. Mr. Krager is the applicant for item B.
Item B.
I'm not sure if I heard you right.
Oh,
He's actually referring
I'm sorry. I did say E. I'm sorry. I
So-
apologize.
The application would be for Summit Credit Union.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Let's take B. We'll go to B. We'll go to C. Yeah. Okay. Let's do C.
See?
It's all too much for me tonight. Okay, item C. That's certified survey map for the properties at 7705, 7725, 7751, 7831, and 7869 South 13th Street. Ready to go, Carrie?
I'm all set. So this
Little
is
levity there. Sorry, folks.
This is an application to consolidate all of the properties that are in red on the screen. This may look a little familiar to you. What happened, this was previously approved and went through the entire approval process, including council review in 2017, and for various reasons, the CSM was not recorded within the statutory 1-year limit. So they have to go through the process again, and that's what this application is before you. There are 2 items that need to be corrected on the CSM before it can be recorded, though. There is a bearing that's missing in the southeast corner, and then public utility easements are supposed to be shown on the CSM. Easements must be made available for public infrastructure due to the layout. This was something that had been previously discussed, so we want to make sure that that's incorporated into this CSM. Then they can record the subsequent CSMs that have been reviewed by the Plan Commission and the Common Council that further divide these properties and consolidate a couple of more. So this is just a necessary step so that they can proceed with the other CSMs and then proceed with the proposals for development of this land. If the Plan Commission is satisfied with the proposed CSM, there is a suggested motion that the Plan Commission recommends to the Common Council that the certified survey map submitted by John Thompson of Highgate LLC for the properties at 7705, 7725, 7751, 7831, and 7869 South 13th Street be approved, subject to conditions 1 through 3. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Questions from the commission on the correct item? Anything?
No.
Okay, seeing none, motion.
Lorik moves that the Plan Commission recommend to the Common Council that the certified survey map submitted by John Thompson, Highgate LLC, for the properties at 7705, 7725, 7751, 7831, and 7869 South 13th Street be approved with the following conditions. Number 1, that the missing bearing on the southeast corner is included on the map prior to recording. Number 2, that public utility easements are shown on the map prior to recording. And number 3, that all technical corrections, including but not limited to spelling errors, minor coordinate geometry corrections, and corrections required for compliance with the municipal code and Wisconsin statutes are made prior to recording. Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Hannah, I.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, I.
Lorik, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, I.
Thank you. Now, is Summit Credit Union in the room? You are. Okay. Let's go ahead with conditional use for Summit Credit Union. Whenever you are ready, Carrie.
The proposal is for a financial institution with a drive-through facility on a portion of the property for which the CSM affects that you just reviewed. It's actually right next to the corner piece that had the approved micro hospital that the Plan Commission looked at a couple months ago. Financial institutions with drive-through facilities are considered conditional uses in the B4 district. This is a conceptual plan showing you what the layout of the property could look like. It would be a 37,000 gross square foot single story building with 2 drive-through teller lanes and 1 drive-through ATM lane. Hours of operation are included in your packets, but it's essentially Monday through Saturday. ATM lane access will be available 24/7. There's a daily estimate of 100 lobby customers and 200 drive-through customers, and they are anticipating at this point to have 7 employees on site at any one time during business hours. Access and parking. So as you will recall, there is a shared access point that will be on 13th Street for all of the properties, at least on the southern portion of the joined properties here. So they will be accessing from that single access point off of 13th Street and through a shared access road on the development parcel. There's no access to Drexel Avenue, and that's included in all of the CSMs. Minimum parking requirements per code require that there's 1 stall for every 150 gross square feet of customer service area and one stall for every peak employee. That would equate to about 26 stalls, and the conceptual plans show 27, so that appears to be met, at least conceptually. There's also a requirement for enough queuing space for a minimum of 4 vehicles in each drive-through lane outside of all public rights-of-way and not blocking any parking stall. While that's not actually included on the conceptual plan, it does appear that they could make that work with this. We would have those details at further review for site, building, landscaping, and other approvals. To give you an idea of what the building might look like, these are conceptual elevations from a different location. You can see that it's quite visually striking for their architecture. It's very different from things that we've seen around the city. But you might recall the similar architecture for other Summit credit unions in the area. And again, these plans would be reviewed by the Plan Commission at a later date should the CUP be approved. If the Plan Commission feels that a financial institution with a drive-through facility is appropriate for this area, there is a suggested motion that the Plan Commission recommends that the Common Council approves the conditional use permit for a financial institution with a drive-through facility on a portion of the property at 7869 South 13th Street, which is Lot 2 of a CSM to be recorded, after a public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions that will be prepared for the Commission's review at the next meeting, which is February 26th. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. I'll open it up for questions from the commission. Chelsea?
Oh, it looks good.
Fred? You, Chris?
Oh, looks good. Nice addition.
Greg?
Just wanted to quick clarify this, and I think I heard you, this is going to be on Drexel to the west of the proposed hospital?
That's correct.
Okay,
It'll
okay.
be right next to it.
Okay, thank you.
Vaughn? Brian? Nothing? Christina? No, I have nothing. I think it's a very nice-looking building. It's actually one of the wider drive-throughs I think we've seen in the city. Again, kudos to them. They got some land to work with, so looks good to me. Motion.
Seifert moves that the Planning Commission recommends that the Common Council approve a conditional use permit for a financial institution with a drive-through facility on a portion of the property at 7869 South 13th Street, Lot 2 of CSM to be recorded after a public hearing and subject to conditions and restrictions that will be prepared for the Planning Commission review at the next meeting, February 26, 2019.
Chandler seconds.
Roll call.
Hannah, I.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, I.
Lorick, aye.
Kavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, I.
Item F is a signed plan review for 120 West Town Square Way for the First Watch tenant space. Pete?
Still not on. How are we now? Now we're better. Okay. I will take your suggestion. I will start over. All right, the applicant, First Watch, for Suite 200, located at 120 West Town Square Way, is requesting approval for 2 wall signs and a sign on the existing monument sign located at 120 West Town Square Way. One sign will be installed on the east elevation, and one will be installed on the west elevation, as shown on the site plan. In the northeast corner, make sure my cursor matches my screen here, is where they'll be installing a tenant panel sign on the existing monument sign that has already been approved. As we always go through the rules and regulations for Drexel Town Square, you have 1 wall sign per entry facade. Per special facade, you're allowed to have a size no square footage no larger than the length of your frontage of your tenant space. The tallest your sign can be is 36 inches. Review of the proposed wall signs. It does meet all of the rules that are outlined in Drexel Town Square, as well as the master plan that was approved by the Plan Commission when this development was first being proposed. With that said, also included in this plan, just so that way the applicant doesn't have to come back later, there are no proposed eye-level signs at this time, but the rule states that you can have 1 eye-level sign for every 12 linear feet of frontage on entry facade. They're aware of that, so if you see the name First Watch goes on the door with hours, they realize that's 1 sign. It can't be more than 10% of the clear glazing, and that they can't wallpaper their clear glazing with top to bottom advertising. So by approving this, we're approving the 2 wall signs, the monument sign, and then also if they at a later date come forward with some eye-level sign, staff can then double check to make sure they comply with the rules and regulations in Drexel Town Square. With that said, staff has a suggested motion that the Plan Commission approve the sign plan for Suite 200 located at 120 West Town Square Way.
Thank you, Pete. Questions from the commission? Commissioners, anything left? Dawn? Greg? Chris? Fred?
Question for Pete. Is this wall sign compatible to the other wall sign that's just next door to it? The
It's similar to like, the way I probably describe it is like Five Guys. You know, it has a back panel with channel letters. Mac and Cheese has all channel letters. So they are similar design, except that like the Mac and Cheese shop doesn't have the backer panel. They have like a raceway that matches to the side of the building. So similar, but not identical.
Okay. Thanks, Pete.
Honestly, nothing. I have nothing either. Pretty standard business. So, motion on F, please.
Lorik moves that the Plan Commission approve the sign plan for Suite 200 located at 120 West Town Square Way.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Hannah, I.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, I.
Lorik, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
Okay, that brings us to 5D, and that is a plan review for site and plan submitted by We Energies for a coal pile windscreen at 10770 and 11060 South Chicago Road. Carrie.
As the mayor mentioned, this is a coal pile windscreen proposal. It's on a portion of both the properties highlighted in red on your screen. While the plan loads, this is an existing layout for the coal pile area. And while it may not be extremely apparent on this next image, the coal pile windscreen is actually proposed on the south and east, wrapping around to the northeast portion of that existing coal pile. The fence itself is proposed to be fabric attached to 100-foot tall poles that will actually stretch for approximately 2,000 feet around the pile. Because of the nature of this structure, there are no architectural standards to apply. And although the height exceeds the maximum allowed for structures in the M1 manufacturing district, as well as the maximum height for fences, per code, utilities and similar uses are exempt from the height limitations of that zoning code. Therefore, no variance is required, and that's why the Plan Commission is being asked to rule on this particular proposal. For an idea of what the screen would look like, we have a couple of renderings. Not sure if you can exactly see, but this is what it would look like from the gate. And here's another image showing what the view would be from the park. There are representatives from We Energies present to answer any further questions. There is a suggested motion that the Plan Commission approves the site plan submitted by We Energies for the properties at 10770 and 11060 South Chicago Road, subject to conditions 1 and 2. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Carrie. Is the applicant here? Come on up, please, and just kind of give us a narrative.
My name is Jennifer Zier. I live at 16040.
Is your mic going?
Is it
See it blink. Yeah.
I can do that. My name is Jennifer Zier. I live at 16040 Siesta Lane in Brookfield.
And my name is Paul Halbert. I live at 901 East Ravine Lane, Bayside, Wisconsin.
Thank you.
We're here this evening to talk to you about our wind barrier project. This project was to address an incident that occurred at the plant in the spring of 2018. To date, we have built a berm around the coal pile. We have also planted over 200 trees on the site. Tonight, we're here to obviously talk about the wind barrier piece to our proposal to address these issues. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul Hubbard. He's the project manager to answer more questions.
I have
sorry.
a question then. before you-
Yeah, no, go ahead
Okay.
while you got them.
I'm talking about this fence. What did you use to determine the height of this fence for controlling the airflow that's coming off the lake and the southeast portion of the lake?
We performed extensive CFD modeling, computational fluid dynamic modeling, commonly used throughout the industry. And we probably ran 30, 40 different runs. And you can run it at different lengths and different heights and different screen materials to optimize it to be most effective as well as most economic. That's how I came up with this design. That was run through my contractor, DSI, who subcontracted that to a separate engineering company out of Alabama. They do this quite frequently. This is what they do for their living.
What's the maximum wind velocity that it'll stand?
That's dictated by code, and we designed that for 95 miles an hour.
And how come we didn't enclose the whole coal pile?
There wasn't a lot of bang for the buck. We did run that scenario with that. We were looking to protect adjacent neighborhoods from the coal dusting, and to wrap that further around, it really did not provide any really further effective protection. The nature of the fence is it protects downwind mostly. It does provide upwind protection, but it's really trying to, it works functionally like a snow fence you see along the beach. The wind hits it, it hits somewhat of a porous material, some flows through, most of it rolls over the top of the fence and forms a dome over the top, and it rolls over the coal pile. So the fence is 100 feet high, coal pile is about 85 feet high.
Have you tried this anyplace else?
These are used worldwide. They're not only used for coal, but any place you have a dusting situation. They're extensively used.
Are you still going to cover the coal with water or whatever to keep the dust down?
Yes, the dust bosses and the rainbirds will still be used. Those are what we use for the water control.
Now, does this allow you to add additional coal pile or additional coal to this pile to have a certain height of how much you can have in that?
Yes, I do believe that there's still capacity to add more coal to it, but this was designed to have an 85-foot maximum height on the coal pile and 100-foot with the fence itself.
So you're going to keep the same amount of coal that you have right now?
Yes, as it's designed.
Okay.
Good for now, Fred?
What?
Is that it for now?
That's it for
Okay.
now.
Jossie, anything?
Can you give us some background information on the true purpose of the screening and how this process works?
Well, the purpose is to basically knock the wind down. I mean, wind causes erosion on the coal pile, which causes dusting. If you put this fence up, it's going to knock the wind speed down and up to 95%. Not to get too technical, but if you half the speed of the wind, the erosion is only a quarter of that. It's a square function mathematically. So that's like the science behind it. So we're getting extensive reduction on the wind velocities across that. So that's how the system works. And I guess the process, we researched what companies, only really two major companies out there that make this type of fence, and we went to both of them, bid the job out, talked to them, and who had the better system, we ended up with this one here, but they both functionally work the same.
So how much or what velocity must the wind be to actually move the coal?
You can get dusting. We have, I guess we'd have to refer back to how we operate the plant. And then I believe that at 25 miles an hour, they stop working the coal. 20 miles an hour, they start getting alarms. So at that point, that's the velocity we started shooting for, to see what we could do with reductions from 25 miles an hour. And that's where we got our 95% reduction. But it works the same. If it goes up to 50, it's a linear relationship. So if you got a 50-mile-an-hour wind, it's still going to get 95% reduction from 50. A very rare occurrence, and we wouldn't be working the coal pile with those type of wind speeds.
So if the wind is at a top speed of 100 miles per hour or 150, you can get at minimum a reduced wind speed to 25 miles per hour. So then that still will create coal dusting moving throughout the neighborhood?
That could be. That would be a rare occurrence, though, I think.
Oh, wait, can you speak? Yeah.
I think we would probably have a lot of other issues at the plant if we had winds at 150 miles an hour.
But what I heard is it only goes up to 100 miles per hour. Is that correct? It protects at a max 100 miles per hour.
It was tested at a wind velocity of 95 miles an hour.
Right,
I
well,
think you said.
that's a structural design issue.
Right.
Okay.
I mean,
And
it's,
remember, we're here on the structure. They're trying to correct the problem, and this is a structure that they have out there. So we're looking at the structure and landscape of it.
Well, can you explain that a little more? When you say we're looking at the structure, what does that mean exactly?
We've already been through the issue of coal dust. That's why the structure is being put up in the first place. And at the winds and when it occurs and all that, we've been through that. We've established that. That's why they're doing that. So what we're looking at is the structure itself and the landscape.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand. So will it be the screening or the berms that are helping to reduce the coal dusting?
the screen
The
will be
screen, only the
knocking down
screen.
the coal dust.
So
Berms were
what was the
aesthetic.
purpose? Oh, my apologies.
The
Please
berms
continue.
are a visual block. They're for aesthetic purposes, to block the view of the coal pile and the new fence.
Thank you.
Chris?
You know, a few things come to mind. First of all, Alderman Tolman could not be here tonight. He's out of town. So he did mention that he wanted to make sure that there was a letter sent out to enough, I don't know what the number of homes.
Extend it.
Yeah, they extended it, so hopefully everyone that wanted to be notified was notified about that. He did say, and he was talking to Alderman Lorik and I, he does support this project right now, and he does feel it'll be a good, pretty good impact for help out, you know, what's going on out there right now.
Chris? Okay. Greg, anything?
I'm just curious, based on this rendering, is the fence more opaque than that, or is that pretty much what it looks like? Is it more of a
Is that the other-
fabric that you can't see through?
This one we're talking here? Yeah, it's that's a little darker than what the rendering had it. Yeah, that's a little more accurate.
Yeah.
The fence material is about 50% porous, so that's the visual of it. It's a green color, so that's probably similar. It's the colors may not be exactly correct on that.
It's not like a chain link fence.
No, no,
Oh,
it's
it's like
polypropylene fabric
much less
impregnated
open
with the resin. Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
Is that it, Greg? Dawn?
Just real quick, so there's silver poles with this green fabric in between them?
I think they're going to be black when we're done here
Okay, so black poles with the,
with the green. It's a medium green type material.
a question
Yes,
actually.
go ahead.
What is the maintenance on that fabric? How is this going to go? Because if those are done to kind of collect all the dust from the coal, so what is the maintenance plan for that? How often you're going to be changing it, cleaning it, maintaining it?
Actually, it doesn't collect the dust. It's
Does it?
really a wind barrier, just due to the nature of the material itself. I brought a sample if anybody wants to see it.
Actually, even if it's a wind barrier, it will have to collect some dust at one point, especially if it's some sort of a fabric, as you're explaining, and I'm seeing here. Eventually, it will have to land in between, and it's going to clog those pores, right, or no?
Well, not exactly. It's a very unique fence material in the
You
design
have
of
it? You said you have it? Can we
Yes,
see
I
it?
do. Check to see it.
Yeah, yes. That's exactly how I envisioned it. Any little articles or particles will have to kind of collect eventually with time, especially this is, like you said, a wind barrier. So there should be some sort of maintenance done. There should be some maintenance regardless, okay? So there should be some sort of maintenance to clean those so it wouldn't become like a dust wall over the years. That's, and would it self-clean? Where is it gonna go? That doesn't make sense. Because if it's collecting here, how is it gonna fall? If it's sit between those openings here. Yeah. I was thinking like maybe like hosing it down or cleaning it. If I want to compare it, and I know it's not a fair comparison, like when you have like a fence outside your home, like those a metal fence or like those gates, eventually over the time it will collect some sort of a dust, and you have to hose them down to clean them.
But
Similar.
again,
No?
the purpose of the fence is to knock the wind down. He compared it to a snow fence. We don't clean the snow from a snow fence.
But the particles are not no
The
comparison.
snow collects in, just like you're trying to describe here. But the purpose of the snow fence is to knock the snow down to keep from drifting. If you knock the wind down, you knock the dust down. Right?
Yes.
So
No.
that's the
It's
purpose.
both. Because once the wind goes through this fabric, eventually some of the particles will land or get hooked between those openings, right?
It's not supposed to be a filter. It's supposed to be a wind barrier.
So whether it collects in there or not, that's irrelevant.
Right.
It's doing the job it's intended to do. It's knocking the coal dust down.
I guess let me explain to you my concern. My concern, yes, it will serve its purpose for wind barrier, but it can become another issue down the road. It starts to collect and become like a big block.
Well, yeah,
That's what I'm trying to.
I'm more
but
worried.
that becomes more of a maintenance issue.
I-
And that's why
on
I
them.
asked the
That's on
actual
them, though.
question.
Yeah,
What is the maintenance?
Yeah.
of that?
I'd be more worried about it deteriorating and falling apart. What's the lifespan? Need you on the microphone, sir.
We've researched this. Like I said, these are installations all over the world. They have life expectancies up to 20 years with that material. Biggest problem is, as long as none of the operators run the tractor into it.
And,
Okay.
and rip it. Oh, sorry, Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
No, what I'm saying is, yes, I understand we're talking about wind barrier, and it will serve its purpose as it, like you explained. However, we have to be careful that down the road, it won't become another issue. We're not fixing an issue and introducing another one. So that's why we have to be careful of that. That's why I'm asking those questions.
And to the commissioner's point, once you have that buildup of dust, then how is it a barrier anymore? Because it's serving a different purpose. It's a dust collector versus a wind barrier.
But once again, these have been installed all around the world successfully. This-
Specifically with coal dust?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Okay.
There's many coal applications. And that has not been an issue, dust building up in that. You do get some buildup, but you got the wind, you got environmental, rain, what have you, we'll keep it clean. So that was not a concern of ours when we did our research on this.
Now, I do have a question. I think it's for Carrie. Is there a stipulation for the coal height? That it must be under a certain height in that location?
There's an existing conditional use permit that regulates that.
And what's the maximum?
I couldn't tell you off the
Oh,
top of
okay.
my head.
Do you all know what the maximum height is?
I
that
believe
you
I
can
heard
go?
that it was 85 feet, but it might be larger than that. I would have to
Okay.
go back to the conditional use permit, but that is in place and that does regulate.
Okay.
I guess I have a question. Assistant Chief Kresick, Fire Department's point of view on this, is this flammable? Does this pose a hazard to anything like that? Does it negate any of your efforts in an emergency? Enlighten us, please.
Mike Kresick, Fire Department. And I'll try to balance my response based on maybe the comments you made before, Mayor. You know, certainly it's the structure, and the structure is in place to solve a known problem. So, you know, I'm just going to comment basically on that structure and maybe the application of it and what they're trying to accomplish with it, as opposed to solving the issue of the dust. As you know, the Fire Department as a significant concern with coal dust. And I'm not going to comment on what We Energies will do for maintenance for this particular structure. But I will say We Energies does share our concern about that. Now, the application of the coal dust in an outside environment on a fence is much different than maybe what we would experience inside the power plant. From the maintenance perspective, yes, I'm sure dust could accumulate, and I would say it'd be a great question for We Energies to comment on what their maintenance plan is to make sure there isn't a buildup. But their general processes would lead me to believe that that would be part of the routine maintenance of that wind barrier. That answer your question?
Yeah. Now from a fire perspective, does this impede anything you have to do there? Is this material flammable?
I couldn't comment on the flammability of the material. Certainly from the perspective of solving the problem with the dust spreading maybe outside the plant area, it does appear to solve that particular issue. From an operational standpoint for us, it is an outside field. It's a coal field. Certainly there could be some challenges associated with it, but nothing that we would consider pressing as opposed to the overall goal of the project.
Add on that one. Really about it. What's the, this is for We Energies, what's the prospective timeline to start the project and how long to complete?
We are looking to start receiving the pipe support material. That'll be taking place in March. We have to drill foundations, and those will take place in April. You put the base pole in. There's 111 of them. And then we have to build the pole height and then stretch the material around, and that'll take us into August, and will be completed end of August.
A little curious, pole diameter, is this equivalent to a streetlight pole, diameter-wise?
It's a little more robust than that. It's constructed of 3 different pipes of decreasing diameters that slip inside of each other. And typically the bottom one is 36 inches in diameter, and it goes into a 5-foot diameter drilled hole down about 24 feet, encased in concrete. Then you have a 30-inch inside the 36, and then an 18 inside the 30. And that'll get us up to 100. A lot of steel.
And then would you like to comment on the berm and the remediation that's gone on already with the trees? And you said you've planted 200 trees already, and according to the picture, all I really see is the trees. I guess I do see. Are those the posts in front, or is that the fence for the power plant in front of the trees? I really don't see where the windscreen would be with the trees.
I guess that's kind of the point of it.
Oh.
That you can't, if you look very closely, on the left side where the trees are, just off to the tan section,
Okay.
we superimpose the fence in front of those trees just to show you, it's actually behind the trees.
It's actually-
We superimpose it there just to show you a relative reference, height-wise.
Great. Commissioners, anything else before I?
Question about testing to see what the difference is from the wind coming in off the lake, for example, hitting the barrier, and then on the inside of the coal piles of what the velocity the difference would be. What would you drop that velocity from, let's say, 30 to 40 miles coming off the lake, and then on top of the piles, what would that velocity be?
We've typically seen a 95% reduction in the speed. We've had velocities down around 5 miles an hour. It depends on the coal pile with the modeling, but that was pretty typical of what we found.
Will you test this facility once you install it to see if there is a major difference?
It would be possible to do. That wasn't in our plans to do that.
Well, the plant's monitored now.
Well, I'm just saying.
So, I
that-
mean, they could compare differences, because I don't think the monitoring's going away anytime soon. So, I mean, once it's up. Okay.
I do have
Yeah,
another question.
oh, go ahead, Chauncey.
So, because I am not familiar with this material, I'm just trying to understand how this material with these large gaps would block the wind velocity? Is this, you're just gonna have one strip of this that's 100 feet tall, or is it multiple layers of this? How is this installed?
They're about 5 feet high, the rolls, and they come in 300-foot rolls. So you have to piece it together. You'd start typically at the top and work your way down. But that's how that works, is you want to, I'm going to get into the technical design of this, but it does, you have to allow some air to get through it. Otherwise, you'll end up having the wind come over the top and roll back down the fence on the back side, and you could create further turbulence. So you do want some to flow through, so you don't have that negative back pressure in there. And then that allows this dome effect where the other wind will roll over the top and not wrap around the fence, come down and hit that coal pile, and actually could cause more problems.
So there's just one layer of this, once again, that goes, you said 30 feet high, you piece it together like a puzzle. And that's
Yeah,
it?
yes.
Just this?
There's just a single layer of that, there's different layers up to 100 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We do have one person that would like a statement read into the record, and then a resident that does wish to speak. So first, I'll read in the comment. This is from Michelle Jeske, 4338 East Studio Lane, Oak Creek. Does not wish to speak, would like it read publicly. Comment is, Oak Creek's approval at this windscreen is another attempt to control dust coal poison that should have never been approved in the first place. Oak Creek's attempt to help us failed when they approved it in the first place. Thank you. And the speaker is Mr. Millard, 4335 East Studio. Come on up, Greg.
I don't hear real good, so I might talk a little loud.
Okay.
Greg Millard, 4335 East Studio Lane. We got coal dust March last year. We had a 30-mile-an-hour east wind come off, covered 200 homes, all the way going to Oakwood and 32. We Energy's power washed 43 houses. That's with a 30-mile-an-hour wind. We still get coal coming through every once in a while, except for the last couple months because the pile's been covered in snow or it's raining. With a 15-mile-an-hour wind. Now, we stand outside our house. We live right by the north stack. Studio line's right up with that. The smoke could be blowing that way. We're standing in the front yard. The wind is coming at us this way. You can't go by wind direction. My thing is, this coal pile that was put 1,800 feet from residential area should have never been put there. We wouldn't even be here discussing this right now. Second thing is, why isn't the fence going all the way around? What you're gonna do, if you can put up the other picture of the pile, the colored one, with the wind barrier. Okay, the barrier there, that's on the south and the east side. We get the wind off the south and the east, especially in March and April. We get 30-mile-an-hour plus winds, is what caused our problem last time. That fence isn't going to work. You're going to take the east wind, it's going to go over the top of that fence, hit the coal pile, come down, hit the berm and the other picture, and launch it back into our subdivision even farther. It's going to go to Deerfield, to the school. I don't know who these people are, I can't hear, but nobody consulted any of the residents here. We know what's going on in our subdivision, the wind currents and everything. They need to talk to us. That's not working. We are still going to get coal from that. It's not surrounding the whole pile. It's going to go over the top of that. Mark my words. It's going to hit that, go over the pile, and it's going to launch it over the berm you put by Haas Park to cover the fact that you got it. I talked to Anna Marino from We Energies in September. They just put that berm up that you guys approved to cover it from Haas Park with all the pine trees. 2 weeks later, we got coal dust on the slide. I called her up and said, Anna, we got coal at the park right after you put the berm up. I said, it isn't working. The wind currents are all changed now because all the berm's in there. It's not like what they're saying. It's gonna come over the top of that. The whole thing should have been covered. And second thing, 2 years ago in March, we had a south wind. My neighbor lady down the street got coal dust in a dish. We called We Energies. I said, I think we got suspected coal dust. We don't know how to test for that. The next day, We Energies person that tested our coal at our property in March that said 100% coal was Craig Martin. Oh, we do know how to test it. Let's see what you got. I said, well, we put it in a jar. Well, you corrupted the sample. We can't do nothing. That's the end of the story until last year. Now we're a little smarter. We know what coal looks like. We get it every once in a while. Everybody denies it. We need more help from Oak Creek to help us figure out what's going on.
I just want to correct you. I don't think anybody denies it, and I think that's why we're here trying to find a solution to the problem, Mr. Millard.
Right.
So we went through this. We Energies came here in spring. They admitted they had the problem. They put in the berms and the trees. I don't think that was necessarily the answer to get rid of coal dust.
It's not working.
It never, again, it was never designed to work or stop the coal dust that way. It was in my opinion of what I understood, it was there to set up a screen and block. Okay? This is supposed to be the answer to knock it down. It's been engineered, according to the applicants, that they engineered it over the last, March to wherever we're at. And they're at the point where this is the best model they can come up with computer generation on what they can expect off that lake and have experienced. So I don't have a really good answer. The man answered why they didn't encapsulate the entire pile with
Could we
the
ask
fence.
them if
He
they
he
designed
answered it before. You probably didn't hear.
I don't hear really.
I understand that. But he did answer that, and I will have him come up again and address that. And,
Okay.
and you can stand there so you can hear him better.
Sure.
But he did address why they didn't put it all the way around.
Okay.
They did encapsulate the pile, I believe. It took some time, but the pile's encapsulated. So we're working for workable solutions to help the problem, to help relieve the problem. So this right now is
It's
what's
the best you've got.
Oh, I didn't
Solution.
I didn't come up with it. The engineers came up with it, and it's up to us to approve it to try to solve the problem.
Okay.
I personally am not educated to second guess what they've designed. I do not have that institutional knowledge to be able to say how this is going to work.
I'm not that educated either, but I've lived there 17 years. I know the wind currents. I work outside every day. It's gotten so bad sometimes you can't breathe.
And again, we're trying to alleviate those issues going forward.
Okay.
And this is an answer. So, sir, if you could come up and just explain one more time, please, why the screening only goes around, what is it, about half the pile or whatever, instead of going around the whole thing, so Mr. Millard can hear you.
Sure. The way this screen works is that it protects the downwind of the fence itself. So the Haas area there is downwind. We put the fence on the south side of it, so it blocks the wind from the south, so it does not hit the pile. Wind blows through the screen, rolls over the top. Would it be, from this view here, the wind would be coming at us, or really more this direction towards
See,
Haas
we
Park.
live over this way.
Right, and that's why it wraps around the east side also.
My point is, where that circle sign is, turnaround, the wind's gonna come over the top of that, drop down on a pile, and carry it back into us even farther. And the second point is, we got coal from the south pile before the north pile was even in. 2 years ago, I was telling you about my neighbor lady from the south pile. Why isn't the south pile being covered like this one? The south pile doesn't have any green on it at all. McNuss and everybody else on the Racine side get coal dust like we did. We at least got green on there right now, and it's eroding really bad. I've got pictures. I can take them from my backyard, showing pictures where that green is eroding. They've got nothing over there. Why not do one on the south pile too?
Well, this one will protect this coal pile.
What
I
about
mean-
the south one?
But you're saying it's gonna come over the fence and hit the coal? It's not gonna do that, it's gonna roll over the top of it. And
It'll go over the
velocity-
top of the fence that you
It'll go
designed,
over the top of the coal pile also.
hit the coal pile.
No, it won't hit the
Curtis.
coal pile. It'll roll over the top of the coal pile. It actually forms a dome over the top. So it does not hit the coal, I mean, that's the whole purpose of this.
I'd like to know why nobody come around and talk to any of the residents about that. Do you know that from from where that coal pile is to where I live is 1,800 feet. It carried 5,200 feet to Oakwood and 32 with a 30-mile-an-hour wind. You're saying it takes 25-mile-an-hour wind to move coal. It takes 15 miles an hour. You don't talk to anybody. That's part of the problem. Nobody talks to anybody here. We live there.
Hold tight. Representative from We Energies wants to address
So
us.
you should have received a letter that we're having an open house on February 27th to discuss all of this with the residents. You should have been invited. You got a letter, correct?
We got a letter, but this is the plan of review. My question is, I don't think this is gonna work, and it's part of a solution. I'll give you that.
No, I understand, but you're
Well-
saying nobody's communicating with you, and that is not true.
Nobody said anything about what we're doing here until now. I'm telling you, that's not gonna work, and you're not helping the south pile. Why isn't the south
Well,
pile
what we're
being
talking
covered?
about here, though, you have to understand, this was engineered professionally. This is a company that's been doing this all over the world. I think they know what they're talking about. I mean, we got experts involved in order to do this the right way.
And I've been in construction for 47 years.
Okay.
I know a lot too,
Okay.
but nobody talks to
I get it. We have a lot of opinions, but right now we're looking at the engineered
Well, my last
structure, Greg.
comment is,
Yes.
why isn't the south pile being covered like this one? There's no green on the south pile.
I cannot address that. When we had an issue here in spring, it concerned the north pile, if I understand that. So that's
We'll
what's,
address that then too.
what, the south pile?
Cover the south pile with something.
We don't do it. If it's up to the DNR and the EPA, we've been through this. We are not the governing agency for the dust. So again, the south pile, we address the north because the north is where the issue arose.
Respectfully, the south pile is part of the problem too.
And you may well be right, but tonight we're addressing the north, Greg.
All right, thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Okay, anybody have any other questions? Go ahead, Chauncey.
Hey, Carrie, is it possible that we can include like a follow-up after the installation of this to verify that it's working the way it should, such that we can give that information back to the residents? Or just make sure this is a good solution?
I don't think that's actually within the Plan Commission's purview. That would be on We Energies to communicate the effectiveness and how it's working with the residents.
And I do believe that they have something set up through their website and through their HR to talk about the dust levels and what they're doing, because you had to put monitors in. Am I correct in that? We Energies is nodding yes. So it's being monitored. They have to report to EPA, DNR. I think that was all addressed in March. So again, we're kind of here for the structure, hoping this is a solution. Gives relief to the residents there.
And I ask this question because the residents, they do have a concern. So can you tell us your plan after this is installed to notify residents of its success?
My name is Tanya Heller-Minch. I reside at 3137 West Hilltop Lane in Franklin. We have been communicating, we've been sending since March just updates about as we've gone through the different mitigation strategies. We sent one out last week just to talk about the berm. We're holding an information meeting on February 27th. We have the monitoring data available on our website from both the North Monitor that was installed last year as well as the South Monitor. And we continue to operate within all the permits that we have with the DNR as well as EPA. Answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Question for you. Sorry. Yeah. So I just heard you said you're going to hold a public information meeting?
Yes.
On the
was sent-
26th or 22nd?
It's Wednesday, February 27th, if I have my date right, if that's the Wednesday.
So what are you going to be presenting? Are those alternative, or that's exactly what
No,
you're
it's
presenting
exactly
here?
what you saw. We'll have boards, presentations, renderings that the neighbors can come and look at, have their questions answered, and just, we opened it up from 3 to 7 at the Oak Creek Community Center so that folks can, come as they're available just to ask questions.
Or even if they have other concerns, like I heard there is another concerned location, so they could come in and
Ask how we
discuss that with
designed
you.
it and
You
engineered.
guys hear that over there? So there is another opportunity there to go and talk.
It's from 3 to 7.
3 to 7.
Yes,
Um,
that's good. No, that's it. I just wanted to make sure that they hear that again. Thank you.
No other questions? Motion.
Lorik moves that the Plan Commission approve the site plans submitted by We Energies for the properties at 10770 and 11060 South Chicago Road with the following conditions. Number one, that all relevant code requirements remain in effect. And number two, that all revised plans, site building, landscaping, east elevation, etc., are submitted in digital format for review and approval by the Department of Community Development prior to the submission of building permit applications.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Hannah, I.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, I.
Lorik, aye.
Gavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
Chandler, aye.
I want to thank you, everybody, for the conversation. I want to encourage We Energies, reach out to that neighborhood. I really, really hope the engineers are right on this one and can give relief to the neighbors because they've experienced a lot. And again, we want to take care of them. We want to protect them. We want you guys to do okay too. So hopefully this solves that solution. So again, please, if you can, attend their event. And speaking of events, we have Winterfest. Kind of led me right into a cheap commercial. We have Winterfest going on this weekend in Town Square. So there's slap shot hockey, ice sculpting, stuff to do for the kids, giveaways, things like that. So please get out there, discover, and celebrate Oak Creek. And one more thing, tomorrow, or Thursday, is the premiere of Round the Corner with John McGivern. And we will be featured. Oak Creek is the featured town. So 7 o'clock on Channel 10, City of Oak, what's that? 10.1.
10.1.
Man, I am just missing the mark all over the place here today. 10.1, City of Oak Creek on Around the Corner. Thank you all. Adjournment, please.
Grillo moves to adjourn at 7:08.
Seifert seconds.
Roll call.
Hannah, I.
Johnston, aye.
Grillo, I.
Lorik, aye.
Bukavich, aye.
Guzekowski, aye.
Seifert, aye.
And one
Chandler,
last
aye.
thing.
We gotta
I want to
Brian.
thank Mr. Brian Johnston for his service. This is his last meeting.
Thank you.
Speech.
Thank you.
Totally.